Working on electrical systems that have not been disconnected or properly disconnected has become the #1 cause of electrocution in Ontario.
Daddy always said, "I'll see you when I get home, buddy." But that day, he didn't come home. He's not coming home anymore. Daddy told me he had a safe job. Why did he have to die?
I can't believe this has happened to us. John told me he was safe at work, that he was in a trade where he was safe, that the risks could be managed. He knew we depended on him, and I know he wouldn't have taken a risk. I don't know what happened that day.
When John told me he wanted to follow in my footsteps and enter the electrical trade, we talked about the risks and how they could be managed by following the basic safety rules. The most important one, never work live. If he could see his family now, he'd never have taken that risk.
Are you prepared to take the risk? The Electrical Safety Authority surveyed 5,000 electrical tradespeople to identify the risk they associate with working live on 347-volt systems. More than 85% of respondents identified an above-average risk with working live in 2 surveys conducted by the Electrical Safety Authority in 2004. Ontario workers are protected by the rules outlined in Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations. The Act and regulations state that only certified electricians or persons with equal qualification and experience can work on electrical equipment, and that power supply to the electrical installation shall be disconnected, tagged, and locked out before the work is done. The Ontario Electrical Safety Code, which defines the standards for safe electrical installations in Ontario, also requires systems to be de-energized prior to conducting any electrical maintenance work. All of this said, 44% of electrical tradespeople believe that they can take the risk, that they can work live on 347-volt systems that present an above-average risk, and that they will sustain no injuries.
I was a laborer employed by a subcontractor. I was working on a live 347-volt system ballast when I contacted a live conductor and was killed. Don't work live.
30% of all occupational electrocutions in 2004 were sustained by electrical maintenance or electrical tradespeople who were knowingly working on live electrical systems. You know the risks, and you're prepared to play the odds. You need to ask yourself, how does a 347-volt system really work? Who worked on the system last, and did they do it right? What are the safe work procedures at the facility where I'm working? You need to know that not everyone follows the proper installation process. Working on live 347-volt systems presents unusual risks. 347-volt systems have complex circuitry. 3-phase wire systems can become unbalanced when disconnected. A neutral conductor can become live if not disconnected properly. The T-bar ceiling structure, often associated with these systems, can conduct electricity. 347-volt system, when they electrocute, will hold you, throw you. This work should be done by a certified and licensed electrician. The first step to working safely requires that you identify and assess potential hazards. Check relevant electrical drawings and verify that the actual wiring installation matches the drawing. Inspect the work area for other electrical hazards, such as faulty wiring. Check for power at the fixture. A proximity tester works well for this. The proper testing procedure that should be followed requires that you test the tester on a known circuit. Test the live on a circuit you're working on. See if it is energized. Go back and test the known circuit for verification. Identify the wires that go to the ballast and/or fixture that you will be working on. Identify the circuit at the panel to be disconnected. Beware that panel schedule may be incorrect. The second step to working safely requires that you control the hazard by eliminating it. De-energize the system. Lock out and tag out at the panel or switch. Verify that you have de-energized the correct circuit.
I I was a 56-year-old qualified electrician. I was killed when re-energizing a 347-volt system. I wasn't wearing any personal protective equipment. Don't work live.
Incidents linked to working on live electrical systems have increased by 30% in 6 years. Verify that the circuit is dead. Test the 2 circuit conductors feeding into the fixture and test each to ground. Verify both wires are dead. You should test at the 600 volt supply side of the ballast. Use an approved Category 3 meter when testing. Use the same 3-point testing method used with the proximity device. Test with a multimeter with fused leads on a 600 volt setting or a solenoid meter. Make sure your meter is working properly by testing with a known source first. Always ensure that you know how your meter works, including its limitations. Next, verify the wires leading to the ballast, including the wiring around them. Make sure they are not faulty and confirm they are dead. It is important to note that you should never break the neutral. Neutral wires in these systems often share 2 or more circuits to other light fixtures, and as a result may still be carrying current. Other conductors, except those connected to the secondary of the disconnect ballast you've disconnected and tested, should be treated as live. This includes neutral as well as bond wires. You should never touch the open ends in the socket on the fluorescent fixture. If the system has not been disconnected, the ballast could still have more than 1000 volts in the open circuit voltage, between the end caps and either end of the bulb or ballast.
I was a 30-year-old maintenance worker. I was killed working on a live 347-volt system and with defective wire that had no protective insulation. Don't work live.
1/3 of electrical shocks are associated with 347-volt systems. Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Ontario Electrical Safety Code require electrical systems to be disconnected prior to initiating work. Use proper personal protective equipment, PPE, while doing the job. At a minimum, PPE includes hard hat, glasses or goggles, gloves rated for 347 600 volts, boots with dielectric property. In addition, use a non-conductive work platform or ladder. Check with facility management to define if there are any additional or unique requirements for PPE, such as those identified by NFPA 70E. Safety doesn't happen by chance. The more risk you take, the greater the odds you'll be hurt. Safe work practices exist to reinforce a high level of safety performance. It's not worth the risk. Don't work live. Plan properly. Test before you touch. Use personal protective equipment. Educate employees and contractor staff about safe electrical work practices. What we've described in this video represents the minimum requirements as defined by the Ministry of Labor and the Electrical Safety Authority. What are your safe work procedures? You are encouraged to produce safe work practices that adopt these safety steps as a minimum and incorporate the unique and specific requirements for your facility. Customers, supervisors, facility owners need to educate employees and ensure safe work procedures are followed. Non-compliance with these regulations could lead to charges being laid under the Occupational Health and Safety legislation or the Criminal Code. But more important, you could take a life or change a life, yours or someone else's. Eliminate the risk where you work. Choose to avoid the risk. Work safely. Work to live. Visit www.esasafe.com for more information.
The Electrical Safety Authority encourages you to ensure your company has a Don't Work Live policy.